This video, we're going to talk about 2.1 Objective 5, where we classify data completely. So question 1 asks us to determine whether the data described below are qualitative or quantitative, and also identify their level of measure. If the data are quantitative, state whether they are continuous or discrete, and give a brief explanation. All right, so determine whether the data are qualitative or quantitative and identify their level of measure. World record times in a horse race. So those would be quantitative. And that's number 1 here, quantitative. And they're at the ratio level because there's a true zero for time in the horse race, and it makes sense to not only have intervals of time, but also ratios to say somebody took twice as long or half as long, so on. Because the data are counts, are measures, and have a true 0 point. Okay. Then we're going to answer the question here. If the data are quantitative, which it was, state whether they are continuous or discrete and give a brief explanation. So this would be continuous because the world record time can take on any positive value. That you can be any fraction of a second more or less than somebody else in time. So determine whether the data described below are quantitative or qualitative and identify their level of measure. And if they are quantitative, to tell whether they're continuous or discrete and give an explanation. So pain ratings on a scale of 1 to 10, they should be considered to be qualitative in nature, not quantitative. And they should be ordinal because we can rank them, but there's no meaningful information from subtracting numbers like that. And then they are not counts, but they can be ranked. That's what the whole idea of the scale is to rank things from less severe to more severe, right? And so E, the data are qualitative. We don't need to say anything more about that because they were not quantitative. So we don't need to explain anything about the category other than to say that they were qualitative in nature. All right, determine whether the data described below are qualitative or quantitative and identify their level of measure. And if the data are quantitative, state whether they are continuous or discrete and give a brief explanation. The salaries of managers at a factory are used to determine their pension plans. So they are quantitative values. They have a true 0 point, and we could be talking about any fractional amount or percentages or things like that, or ratios would be applicable, and they are counts. We're physically counting there, or measures, and they do have a true 0 point, so that makes them ratio. And that would be C. The data are discrete because the salary can only be reported as a whole number here. We could report it down to the nearest cent, let's say, but we're not going to make fractions of a cent more or less than somebody at the lowest level there. Even if we went down to the nearest penny, you have to always increase or decrease by a full penny You're not going to be increasing or decreasing by fractions of a penny. All right. Now let's look at number 4, which is our last question for this video. Determine whether the data described are qualitative or quantitative, and also identify the level of measurement. If the data are quantitative, state whether they are continuous or discrete and give a brief explanation. A consumer agency lists a rating of best buy, recommended, or not recommended for each of several different baseball gloves. Let's choose the correct description of the data. We would say that the data are qualitative with an ordinal level of measurement because they can be ranked. But that's it. So, all right, that's it for this video, and we will come back next time and talk about 3.1 Objective 1. See you for the next video.